Hey guys, Frosty Knives here, back with another EU book review. And today we're going to be taking a look at what could possibly be the last video that I will be doing for 2024. And also the last video for my Star Wars excursion, season 2. So we can consider this season finale. And the last book in the Han Solo Trilogy. We'll be taking a look at A.C. Crispin's Rebel Dawn, which is the last book for the Han Solo Trilogy. A trilogy that so far has been pretty good for all intents and purposes. And this is where all of Han Solo's life before we knew him in A New Hope will culminate. And then will bring us forward into the Han Solo that we know of the New Hope period. So what was going on? What's going on in Rebel Dawn? What is Han Solo and Chewbacca and friends been up to? Well, the book starts out with Han Solo winning the Falcon. We have the giant sabacc tournament at the beginning of the book in Bespin. And Han Solo has thrown his money and credits into the pot because he feels that if he can win this big tournament, he will have finally enough money to get himself a ship. And so he goes. He enters into this tournament. It's like a 4-day tournament. All of the high-stakes players from all over the galaxy are going to be there, including his best friend and rogue compatriot, Lando Calrissian. So Lando and Han are both in this same sabacc tournament trying to win the big stakes money. And as we figure and we know, the 4-day tournament eventually boils down to just Lando and Han facing off in a high-stakes game of cards. And in addition to the giant pot of money that is there, Lando gets a little cocky and he throws down a credit chip and he says, since I own a used spaceship lot, I'm going to include in this wager a credit chip that will allow the winner to take any ship on my lot for free. So in addition to the money, you can win yourself a free ship. And of course, Han wins the money. Lando was bluffing. Han wins the entire tournament. He takes the chip and he says, I got this, and I'm going to turn it in because I want the Falcon. And Lando's like, no. The Falcon is my personal ship. He's like, you can take any ship on the lot, but the Falcon is my personal vessel. And Han Solo's like, aha, yes. But where did you park the Falcon? And Lando's like, damn it, I parked it in the lot, didn't I? Yeah, you did, buddy. Yeah, you did. And that's how Han wins the Falcon. A high-stakes game of sabacc and a little bit of chicanery along the way. So now Han has the Falcon. And Lando's out of a ship, but he's not mad. Hey, a deal is a deal. His word is as good as his bond. So Lando's like, okay, Falcon is yours, and here you go. And so then Han, with the Falcon, goes out to make his way in life. He continues running spice for Jabba. He continues doing all of these things. About halfway through the book, Han decides that he's going to take an extended leave of absence and he's going to go try to make his money off in the corporate sector. So that's what he does. He leaves with the Falcon and with Chewie for about a year. He goes off into the corporate sector to make his own way. That is A.C. Crispin's way of writing in the Brian Daley Han Solo trilogy into her story. So when Han, halfway through the book, leaves and goes to the corporate sector and goes to make his money there, that's where the Brian Daley trilogy from the 80s takes place. So she weaved that in. And of course, while all of this is going on, a couple of other things are going on in the world. The Hutts are there's still internecine warfare between the Basadi Hutts and the Desilogic Hutts, between Durga the Hutt, who runs Basadi, and Gileak and Jabba, who runs Desilogic. They're still butting heads. They're still, they don't like each other. There's still this sort of Khajiitic war. That's sort of like an inter-Ma war. Durga is still trying to figure out who killed Uruk. And he included Black Sun and to try to help him figure out who killed Uruk and how Uruk died. So there's a lot of Hutt warfare, a lot of Hutt infighting going on for a large portion of the book, which will eventually get resolved at the end. And then on the other side of the galaxy, we have Bria Theron, who shows up again, and who is now part of what is essentially the Rebel Alliance. So she's working for the Corellian Resistance, and she's trying to get the other little pockets of resistance to band together so they can form an official Rebel Alliance. So the beginnings of the Rebel Alliance in the books, it's a little bit murky, because on one hand, in the A.C. Crispin books, Bria Theron was really instrumental in getting the Rebel Alliance unified into a single alliance. In The Force Unleashed, it's really insinuated that Starkiller was also credited for creating the Rebel Alliance. So it gets a little murky in there about who's doing what. But just know that Bria is working for the Corellian Resistance. She is working to unify the rebellion around, into one cohesive alliance, and they do want to hit. They're hitting Imperial targets. They're hitting Imperial bases, but they want a big hit. They need a big hit to do some damage to the Empire and to give some credence and credit to the Rebel Alliance. So that's what the middle of the book is basically about. Eventually, Han Solo comes back from the corporate sector. Not that much wealthier than when he left, but he comes back, and he continues working for Jabba. Now, it's about this time that Bria comes back into his life. Comes back into Han's life. And of course, Han is like, yo, it's been 10 years. I haven't seen you in 10 years. And now all of a sudden you want to wander back into my life and whatnot. And she's like, Han, I need your help. I need your help with something, blah, blah, blah. And the something is this. Bria wants to take down Elysia. She wants to take down the entire planet. She wants to kill the Tilan de Til. She wants to destroy the spice factories. She wants to rescue all the slaves. And she wants to burn that planet to the ground. She wants Elysia to be the example, right? But she needs help doing it because she doesn't have enough ships. She doesn't have enough manpower, firepower. She doesn't have enough skilled pilots. She doesn't have enough people who understand and know how to run this type of operation. So she goes to Han and she says, if you can help me recruit the Smuggler Alliance and the pirates, if you can convince the smugglers and the pirates to throw their lot in with me to attack Elysia, that when we burn this place to the ground and we take all the treasure and we take all the money and we take all the spice, I'll split it with them. I'll split the spice with the smugglers and us. So we'll split all the proceeds. We'll give you all the high quality spice you can handle. And for you and me, Han, we'll split the treasure room, all the expensive collectibles that Terowenza had. We'll split them between the two of us. So everybody wins. The planet gets destroyed. We'll split the spice profits and the spice, and we'll split the treasures. So Han thinks about it, and he says, okay, I'll do it. Because it's a big haul. So it's a lot of money. And so he does. He convinces the smugglers to throw their lot in with Bria to help them take down Alicia. And of course, in the process of all that, he falls in love with her again. And so she's got the Hutts, the Jabba, who is set to deal with the priests, and she's got her squadron and her alliance, and she's got the smugglers, and she's got the pirates, and so they go to attack Alicia. That's the big battle at the end of the book and at the end of the trilogy, is to take down Alicia. And they do. They wipe that planet out. They kill all the Till, kill all the priests, burn all the factories. They save hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of slaves. They rescue them from the exaltation. And they wipe it all out. And then they take everything for themselves. They take all the spice for themselves. They take all the treasure for themselves. And they screw the pirates. And they screw the smugglers. And she screws Han over. Screws them all over. Takes all that for herself. And when Han confronts her, he's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? We're supposed to be splitting this. We split the treasure. They split the spice. What are you doing? And Bria says, I can't. I need it all. Because there's something big going on. The Empire is doing something big. They got some large project that they're working on. And I need all the money to find out what that project is and how to stop it. So I'm sorry, Han, and I'm sorry, smugglers, but all of this is going with us. I'm taking all of this money and treasures and profit, and we're giving it to the Rebel Alliance. So she double crosses everybody. Everybody. And Han was like, I thought you loved me, and I thought you were important, and apparently you don't love me enough, so fine, take everything, and I never want to see you again, and if I ever see you again, I'll shoot you myself. This is what turns Han off to the rebellion, right? When we see Han in A New Hope, and he says to Leia, I'm not in this for you. I'm not in this for you, and I'm not in this for your rebellion. I'm in this for the money. This is why at the beginning of A New Hope, he doesn't want anything to do with the rebellion because he just got screwed by the love of his life for the sake of the rebellion. So Han leaves penniless. Smugglers leave penniless. The smugglers all think that Han was in on it. Smugglers and the pirates and Lando think that Han betrayed them, that he knew that this was going to happen. So they've all think that they've been betrayed by him. This is why Lando is lukewarm to Han in Empire, because he remembers, what happened. And even though Han said, I didn't know, Lando doesn't believe him. So they all turn their back on Han. All turn their back on him. And then Han goes off with Chewie because he's not welcome on Nar Shaddaa or Nal Hutta anymore. And Alicia has been destroyed. And the Basadi clan for the Hutts has been pretty much taken out of business. So Jabba got his way. They took down Basadi because they helped take down Alicia. And Durga is going out to do Black Sun things. So at the end of the book, two things happen. One is you find out that Bria is the one who was she goes on one last mission, and she's the one responsible for transmitting the Death Star plans to the Tantive 4 at the beginning of Star Wars, at the beginning of A New Hope. So she's the one that leads the raid to the Imperial Communications Center on Top Rawa to steal the Death Star plans, and they do get it to the rebels in time, but in so doing, she dies. And all of her commandos that go with her, her entire Red Hand squadron, dies with her. So that's her last gasp. The last thing she did for the rebellion was she was the one that got them the transmitted the plans. And then the last thing, of course, we see Han doing is he goes on his last final run for Jabba. The fateful run where Jabba needs him to run some spice from Kessel. And he does. He gets to Kessel, and he gets the spice, and then, of course, he gets ambushed by the Imperials, and as you know, from A New Hope. He has to dump the spice, so he dumps the spice, and he gets boarded, and he gets arrested by the Imperials. They eventually let him go, and he goes back to Kessel to try to retrieve the dumped spice, and it's not there. He can't find it, so he eventually tells Jabba, I don't have it. I need some time to help pay you back because I lost the spice. And Jabba says, it basically tells him he has 10 days. He's like, you have 10 days to pay me back the money, and if you don't, I'm going to put a bounty on your head. And then the book literally ends, with Han and Chewbacca sitting in Mos Eisley minutes before we see them meeting Obi-Wan and Luke for the very first time. And that's where the book ends. It's a very nice segue into A New Hope, bringing Han's backstory full circle from him being a little kid to him sitting in the bar waiting to talk to Obi-Wan and Luke. So that is the book in a nutshell, and I thought it was a very nice way to sort of end the trilogy. It's a nice way to tie her trilogy into A New Hope. It brings sort of everything into perspective, the way Han is and why he is the way he is, and some of his backstory and whatnot. And I thought it was really well done. Now, there were a couple of things in the book that made me kind of scratch my head a little bit. One of the things was that entire middle section where Han was gone to the corporate sector. Now, I know that the way sort of the timelines work, they had to fit the daily books in somewhere, and so that's where they fit them. And I'm sort of kind of glad that they did fit them in. It just felt a little clunky, because not only were there a bunch of chapters where Han and Chewie were gone, so other people were doing their things, at the end of each of those chapters, there were 3 of them, and at the end, in each of those chapters, there was an interlude, and she gave us a little synopsis of what Han was doing in the corporate sector. So you technically don't have to read the books. You don't have to read the Brian Daley books, because we get little synopses of each book in Rebel Dawn. It was a good idea. It felt a little clunky. It kind of slowed the pace down a little bit, because you're reading some things that may feel conflicting. I don't think we needed those interludes. I really don't. I see why she may have put them in there, wanted to cover all of the bases and wanted to make sure everything got mentioned. They just felt a little clunky. And I don't think they needed to be in there. I think we could have done away with that. So that was one thing that kind of scratched my head a little bit. The other thing that was interesting was the timing. At the beginning of A New Hope, it always sounded like Han had been sort of on the run from Jabba for a while. Maybe not a long while, maybe not years, but maybe months. But it was only, in the book, it was only 10 days. He'd only been on the run for about 2 weeks trying to get this money. I thought it was a little longer than that, but she decided that it was going to be a shorter period of time. So that's where we stand. That's a me thing. I always thought that he was on the lam for a little longer than a couple of weeks. But as we see in the Star Wars universe, things sometimes tend to happen quite fast. And we see Boba Fett again in the book. It's good to see that. He helps out in his own way, because he's got bounties that coincide with what Han and Bria are doing. As a whole, I didn't like Bria. I mean, she's not a likable character. And I think she was hopefully meant to be that way. But to really just to stab everybody over, to betray everybody the way that she did for the sake of the rebellion, seemed a little extreme. The fact that she was willing to rob people, she was willing to betray people, she was willing to murder people for the sake of the rebellion seemed a little extreme to me. I don't think her philosophy really coincided with the philosophy of the rebellion. She really felt like an extremist in her attitudes and what she did, as opposed to what the Rebel Alliance was doing as a whole, even though they blew up the Death Star, which also could be considered an extreme event. But I wasn't a big fan of Bria for a variety of reasons, and those are most of them. She just seemed to leave broken people behind in her wake. She didn't care about anything but herself. She was very selfish, and she was willing to manipulate and use people, betray people, and rob people all the way through the books to get what she needed, to get what she wanted. And in the end, her one saving grace was that she was able to get the Death Star plans to the Rebel Alliance. So overall, this wasn't a bad book. I gave it a 4. I give the entire trilogy a 4. I think it's a good trilogy. I think it's a good piece of Star Wars media. I think it's well worth your time to read it, to learn about Han, learn about Chewie, learn about the Falcon and Lando. I think it connects the dots really well. Where it does, there's just a couple of little missteps along the way, but overall, I think it was a really, really good trilogy. She dives really deep into Hutt society and Hutt practices, so if you're not a fan of the Hutt species, she may spend a little more time talking about Hutts than you would like, but I still think it is a really, really good trilogy and a really, really good look at Han Solo, and I think she captures the essence of Han, the character of Han, the character of Chewbacca, and the character of Lando very, very well. And I think she ties enough of the loose ends together that it makes a very cohesive story, a trilogy, and then flows really well into A New Hope. So guys, that's my review of Star Wars Rebel Dawn. Did you read it? Did you like it? Have you read the Han Solo Trilogy? What is your thoughts on the Han Solo Trilogy, or really on any Star Wars story or book that we've read this year? How do you like where the Star Wars Expanded Universe is going at this point? Let me know. Put all your comments in the box below. The next books we will be reading will be the Brian Daley Han Solo Trilogy. We will start next year with that trilogy, just to dip our feet back into that. So we will be starting that. But anyway, guys, put all your comments below. And as always, thank you for watching the video. Thank you for watching all of the videos. Comment what you like. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, give it a share, give it a subscribe, pass it around, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your people who really enjoy reading about Hutt society. And until next time, I will see you in the next review.